Hello class, welcome to Module 4. This is our last module of the course. Welcome, you're almost done. Quick overview of this presentation, just a few announcements, and then we'll get into a general Module 4 overview. So not really many announcements. Module 3, thank you for your discussion board posts. As I said before, I really enjoy reading these posts. I may not engage in the discussion much, but I'm reading them and I'm learning a lot from y'all. So thank you for sharing. Module 4, we'll get into that. I'll get into any announcements as we get into the Module 4 overview. So Module 4, we're going to be looking at topical resources, current awareness, cost-effective research. February 20th, Module 4 is accessible. February 26th, your original post for the discussion board is due. And then March 5th, your response post for the discussion board is due, and your Module 4 assignment is due. So Module 4 is a little bit different than our prior modules, and not just because I am including some cute pictures of squirrels screaming. So Module 4, it might look like it doesn't have a very distinct focus. With Module 2, we had a very distinct focus on legislation. We looked at how the legislature makes laws, all of the content that gets created during the legislative process, and how we can use that for doing legislative history. In Module 3, we looked at regulations and agency materials, specifically how the executive branch implements the legislation that the legislative branch has passed. How does the executive branch create and implement law? So we looked at regulations, we looked at agency materials. We didn't dive deep into case law because honestly in law school, a lot of what you're doing is case law. You're already very intimately aware of the judicial branch. So we've got those distinct buckets. We've got legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch, and the things that are created within those branches that we can use for legal research. The reality of legal research is that you're often likely going to have to look at many different things, including legislation and regulations in case law, as well as secondary sources. And those are the sources that help us understand the law. They help us understand legislation, regulations, and case law, and they help us gain a more comprehensive understanding of our issues. We could read a case about a particular law, and it's only going to tell us about the particular part of the law that's in question. We might need to know more about it, so we might need to go to other sources to understand our issue. We have to look at multiple sources. We have to keep up to date on things. The medical field, the health field, the law field, they're all changing quickly. So keeping up with all this information can be difficult, and it can lead to information overload. And then you might end up being like these poor little squirrels screaming that there's just too much information. There's so much information, there's not enough time, especially as a lawyer. If you're on deadline, there's usually not enough time to go over things. So in Module 2, we're going to look at ways that you can get that comprehensive overview of a legal issue so that you can argue to the court in a better way, so that you can create policy in a better manner. Now, with information overload, one way to get past it is to step away from it for a little bit. If you feel yourself being overwhelmed by information, try stepping away. Give your brain a rest. And now I know a lot of you said that one of your goals for this class was to hopefully become a more efficient researcher. Stepping away from research may seem counterintuitive to becoming a more efficient researcher, but giving your brain that rest, giving yourself a little break, maybe going to another task, another job, can help you refocus. So there is a lot of information. We live in a wonderful time where we have access to lots of information, but sifting through it can be time consuming and can be overwhelming, and we can want to scream like these squirrels. But luckily, there are ways to keep ourselves abreast of legal issues and to give ourselves that comprehensive understanding of a legal issue. And that's some of the things we're going to be looking at in Module 4. So, Module 4, the overarching theme is how to gain a comprehensive understanding of our issue. One way is by looking at topical resources. In the health and health law related field, we're going to be looking at medical resources, health research, medical research. There's a Cali lesson on medical research for attorneys. So we're not doing research on, say, Westlaw or Lexis for health law cases. We are actually looking at medical literature, health-related literature, and how that helps us understand an issue. If we have a case where our client has a patent on a drug that does something, we might need to look back at the literature, any reports, any research done into how this drug may have come to be. We might need to try to understand those complexities of chemical engineering or chemistry. Sometimes we can get that from our colleagues who might have that background. Other times we might have to do that research ourselves. So how do we do that research? Also, how do we evaluate the information? Just as with law and legal information online, there can be good and bad, truthful, untruthful. It's the same with health. There's good, there's bad, there's truthful, there's false information. So being able to evaluate information. We also need to keep up with things, current awareness research. How do we keep up with this constantly changing world? The law is constantly changing, and health and medical related issues are constantly changing. So how do we keep up with that? How do we, set alerts so that anytime a case that has to do with a certain aspect, we get an alert? Where can we look for updates, quick updates, so that we can quickly get up to speed on something, and then if we have to look further into it, we can. So maybe we get an article about a case that was just decided that has a particular interest to our client. We can then go to Westlaw, look that case up, and see if it is something that is important to us. Also, we're going to look at free and low-cost resources. And this is important because Westlaw, Lexis, and Bloomberg are expensive. Databases in general are expensive. Westlaw and Lexis and Bloomberg are particularly expensive. Now, you don't see that cost because it's built into your tuition and all your fees. And when you're out working in a law firm or an organization or in a business, you're probably also not going to see exactly what that cost is. But just know it's expensive. We're talking thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the ability to do free and low-cost research is important, and especially if you're not going to be working in a large law firm, or if you're going to do more pro bono work where you can't use those resources. Another thing with free and low-cost resources is sometimes they're easier and quicker to find than going to Westlaw or Lexis. And you saw a little bit of this in Module 2 when you were looking for the signing statement from President Obama for the Healthy Hungry Kids Act. You were asked first to find that signing statement on Westlaw through UScan, and then you were asked to find it using a free resource. Most of you Googled it because by that point in the assignment, you had enough information that you could easily Google it. You knew the name of the act. You were able to tell when it was signed, so it would have been President Obama. So you were able to input that information into Google, quickly, easily find the signing statement on the White House website archives, the National Archives, maybe the Federal Register. So sometimes free and low-cost resources can be quicker, more efficient. We're also going to look a bit at international research. There's a Cali lesson on intergovernmental organizations and non-governmental organizations. This is important for health law research in particular because global health is a huge issue. It's an important thing. Health and medical related issues don't end at our borders. So global health and global health policy are significant. So understanding a little bit about doing research into intergovernmental organizations like the UN and the World Health Organization is important, as well as doing research into non-governmental organizations like Amnesty International or the Red Cross. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. Another overarching theme with Module 4, and really with any legal research, is the issue of technology and the law. And this is not only how we use technology to do legal research, but also how we use technology just to do our jobs. And the ABA Model Rules of Professional Conduct have a rule of technology competence. There's a duty of being technologically competent. Model Rule 1.1 states in part that to maintain the requisite knowledge and skill, a lawyer should keep abreast of changes in the law and its practice, including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. So that's a little broad, but basically what that means is that as a competent lawyer, you need to be able to learn technology, keep up to date with them. And that's not just Westlaw and Lexis. It's not just keeping up to date with the legal research technologies. It's keeping up to date and knowing how to use all the technology that you use in your job, including things like Microsoft Word. Are you able to use Microsoft Word efficiently and effectively and also ethically? Or can you get rid of track changes? Can you scrub the metadata so that when you send a document to your opposing counsel, they won't be able to read your notes or see when you altered the document? Things like that. And that's a constant thing. You constantly have to keep up with that. In terms of technology and the law, understanding the benefits and risks of legal research databases is also important. Now, Westlaw and Lexis make doing legal research easier. They organize case law, legislation, regulations, and many secondary sources in a way so you can not only find a source, but also be able to identify similar sources or similar cases, easily access things. And that's very important. That's a huge benefit. Think how many laws, how many regulations, how many cases are decided in 1 year, even in 1 month. So to be able to organize that into an efficient system is a huge benefit. But you also have to think of the limitations and the risks. One of the videos that you have is a day in the life of a case at Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters is the parent company of Westlaw, and the video goes through what Thomson Reuters does once a case is decided, how they take the opinion, how they add things to it, they add their editorial enhancements, and then they post it. And that's good. It's an interesting video to watch to see how they do this. One of the things I want you to kind of critically look at, though, is to see how many times there is human input. How many times a human being not associated with the actual decision, so not the judge or the justices. How many times does a human input new things onto this case, enhance it? When they add head notes, when they add a summary, all of that is human enhancements to this case. And how does that impact our engagement with the case? Do we just look at the head notes and not actually read the case? Do we trust the head notes? Do we depend on them to tell us what that case is about? Do we depend on the head notes at the expense of our own thoughtful reading of the case? So think about those things, not only as you're going through Module 4, but also just as you're doing your own legal research. And a big current awareness thing right now that has to do with technology is ChatGPT and these other large language models. How are chatbots changing the legal world and just the world in general? So that's a big example of how keeping up with these things is important. You don't have to understand everything there is to understand about ChatGPT. I don't understand everything there is to understand about ChatGPT. And you will hear lots of different opinions and lots of different information. Some people are very doom and gloom that this is the worst thing to happen to the legal world, that ChatGPT and the robots are going to take over our jobs, and we're going to have little lawyer robots. This little cute yellow robot is going to take over your job. That's the doom and gloom. You also have the other side that is like, this is great, this is wonderful, it's going to open up so many things, it's all rainbows and puppies, and in all honesty, it's probably somewhere in the middle. The reality is that this technology will hopefully could be used for good. There are definite risks to it, and there are benefits, and how do we weigh those? And how do we respond to them in a thoughtful manner without going too far to the doom and gloom and too far into the Pollyanna puppies and rainbows? So that's my spiel on technology and the law. This is an area that I am very interested in and I do a lot of research in. So if you are ever interested in talking more about this, I definitely hit me up. I'm happy to continue this discussion. So the Module 4 assignment is similar to the prior module assignments. You'll have short answer questions. I believe there are 5. And then you have 1 short essay question. So that's a little different than the prior assignments. It's 1 short essay question. You have 2 options. You only have to choose one of those options for the essay question. And 4 to 5 paragraphs is enough. I'm not going to be grading these for whether you wrote beautifully or composed things beautifully. This is not a cert paper. This is not a legal brief or something you're writing for one of your legal writing or lawyering classes. I just want to see that you are engaging with the content, that you are answering the questions. So it's 4 to 5 paragraphs, not very long. Again, there are 2 options. You just have to pick one of those options. And the short answer questions are very similar to the ones you've had prior. So we have come to the end. If you have any questions about Module 4, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you have any just general questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And even after this course is over, if you ever need anything, if I can ever be of assistance to you, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions, help you in your remaining law school lives, or even after that. If there's ever any way I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. It has been a pleasure having you in class, and I look forward to you all doing great things. Thank you.